All right, we're going to do congruent triangles. This is section 4.2. Let's get started. All right, congruent figures. For two figures to be congruent, they must have two things. They must be exactly the same size and shape. All right, that's not to write down quite yet. So they have to be exactly the same. So a circle cannot be congruent to a square. A triangle cannot be congruent to a trapezoid. All right, they have to be the same size, but also, so a large triangle cannot be congruent to a small triangle. They have to be the same size. So they have to be the same shape and the same size. For two figures to be congruent, and triangles, and we're going to specifically talk about this section, their corresponding angles have to be congruent. We'll talk about what it means to be corresponding in a moment. Corresponding angles are congruent. We talked about the word corresponding when we were doing parallel lines. We're going to now associate those with triangles. So the corresponding angles must be congruent and their sides must be congruent. Both of those. So I've got two triangles right here, just like you have on the side, and I'll have you fill in those in the blank there, Amy. The first one was the corresponding angles are congruent, and then their corresponding sides are congruent.
What does it mean to be corresponding?
That's a good question. Exactly. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about right now. So corresponding, notice, these two have AB is congruent to DE. Are you with me so far? Those are the corresponding ones. The ones that are congruent to each other. So CB and D, I should say FD. We'll talk about order in a minute, but those two sides there are corresponding, and then whatever left over, if I tell you those are congruent, are the ones left over. Okay. All right. Actually, I might have us just do that for us. Mine won't stay, but you might put 3 marks on them because these are congruent. So what would be the corresponding, what would go with angle C?
Angle C. C. F?
How do you know it goes with F?
Wait.
I agree with you, Amy. How do you know it goes with F?
Course.
Okay, so if I laid these two triangles right on top of each other,
yeah,
where
honestly,
they match,
all I did
then
was...
C would lay on top of which one?
Oh, F.
F.
Yeah,
So they would be
so-
corresponding. Okay. And I know that because I've got the one with the 2 marks and the one with the 3 marks, and the C's in between. So the one with the 2 marks and the 3 marks, F is in between. All right, so you guys are going a little ahead because you guys are wonderful like that. So here we go. These are congruent to each other, and they're corresponding. A goes with E. They're congruent. If these two triangles are truly congruent.
Wait, what?
If these two are congruent.
Oh, they're congruent.
If they're congruent, yes, and I'm telling you they are.
Wait, but I thought you said if we laid them on top of each other. So
Wouldn't that make
E and
A
D?
and...
A and D and E and B?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I have to flip this one over to lay it there because
you
this
have
has to lay on top of this, right? Does that make
I
sense?
just moved it up.
Yeah,
me
this
too.
has to. Yeah, you're gonna have
I mean,
to.
it wouldn't really
This
match up
wouldn't
with
match up with that if you just picked it up,
True.
right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to pick it up. This is gonna be difficult because some of you are. That's hard for some people to pick it up and twist it and flip it. So you just know that that's part of geometry is to learn how to pick them up and flip it without really picking up and flipping it. Okay.
Hold on, man.
So we can't just go like that because then these two would be on top of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, make everything match.
All right. So A goes with E. And the next one you have there is B. B goes with what?
D.
D, yes. So B goes with D.
But you're going down, up,
All right. And next I have C. C goes with
F.
F. Another way to look at it, if you
You
can't...
already asked.
We did that one first.
Just a minute, okay. If you can't pick it up and flip it,
Oh.
this is another way you can do it, okay? If you can't pick it up and flip it, you have the one with the 2 lines on it. This is the one with the 2 lines on it, right? And the one with the 1 line, and the one with the 1 line, right? So that means that D has to go with B because it's sandwiched between those two. So B has to go with D. So if you can't pick it up and flip it, you can look at it that way. All right, now sides. Be really careful. A, B, I'm going to go back.
Because if you look at it and flip it,
Yeah.
That's
I
why the
did
order
switch.
matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the order now matters. So since A is listed first and E goes with A, E must be listed first. We talked about order in the last one. We gave you a little precursor that order will matter soon. And since B corresponds with D, it has to be listed second. So now when you're doing your homework and they list things in order, yours have to be in the same order, which actually I think will be easier to grade because your order and their order won't be all mixed around and you have to figure it out.
Every time I look at it, it makes my brain hurt.
So you have on there AC is next. What goes with AC?
Yeah.
Let's check. I agree because I already put it up there. You had mine. And the last one, CB.
DF.
I heard DF. Is that true?
FD.
FD.
Oh, yeah, because
C goes with F. So since
Yeah.
C's first, F has to go with. FD stands for fire department. All right. I don't know why I thought of that. I just did. Random thoughts by Miss Carrie. Questions? Now we're going to name the entire triangle. If I gave you oh, and it's already there. ABC. Why does if in order matters, I said ABC goes with EDF. Why does it have to be E first?
Because if you flip it
Uh-huh.
again, A is matched up with E, and then this one's EBC, so it's got to go in the same order.
Yes, same order. So since we already wrote that A went with E, we have to list A first. Okay? So, and I'm showing you how to write it. We have a triangle. We put the triangles in the front, and the order does matter.
How does it matter?
It matters because now we know what the corresponding parts are. A goes with E, B goes with D, and C goes with F. Okay, so they go together. So now if I wrote this statement right here, you'd know what things were congruent to each other based on that statement. So this statement has a lot wrapped up in it. Third angle theorem. I think this one should be straightforward. This is the next theorem in your list. This is a picture you can draw in your postulate book if you choose. This theorem, not postulate. This theorem says.
Oh, we're going back to definitions.
Say that one more time.
Look at
No,
this.
this is
Yeah. I'd like to. And I've had 2 people read. Let's have somebody else new read if they could. Someone volunteer.
It's only between 2 people here.
If the two angles of one triangle are congruent to 2 angles of another triangle, then the third angles are congruent.
Very good. So when you read that at first, it sounds complicated, but it's going to be super straightforward. So first of all, if these green ones are congruent to each other, let's say that since it's a cute, let's say that is 20 degrees, okay? If they're congruent, and then the blue ones are congruent, and let's say that one is 50 degrees, and this blue one is 50 degrees. If 2 angles of one triangle are congruent to 2 angles of another triangle, what do you know about the red or the P and L angles?
They're congruent.
They are congruent, and that is exactly what that third angle theorem says.
So
It
that's
says
like what we did on the last one. They had no markings, but since those 2 were congruent, the last one was congruent.
exactly. So if they didn't have any markings on this at all, if we just had like this, pretend I erased it all. Because of the third angle theorem, P had to be equal to L.
Okay.
Because Q was congruent to J, and R was congruent to K. So automatically, without having to do any calculating, P had to be congruent to L. Because they all add up to 180, right? And so we'd have to subtract from 180, and so we're adding them, both of them, the same number, so they have to be equal to each other, okay? Again, you can draw that picture. Some of you are talking to me about pictures in your postulate books actually make it easier for you to remember them. And so here's a picture for you to draw. Okay? All right. And I suggested that you draw that in your postulate book. Okay? Let's do some together. This is number 1. Number 1 in your homework. You guys are always happy when we do some of your homework together. I am giving you the congruent statement up at the top and a picture. Eventually, I will not give you a picture. I'll just give you the congruent statement. But today, I'm giving you a picture. What corresponds with angle B?
S.
Why do you know that?
Because if you flip it and it has the two
Twist it,
marks,
flip it.
Yes. Flip it around.
it's
You
just
can.
congruence.
And for me, I was like Brett on this last statement. It's got the 2 marks.
That's the
That's-
real reason I did. I saw the 2 marks and I was like that.
Yeah, 2 marks and 2 marks. So automatically, you can also look at it up here. B is in the center of that congruent statement, and S is in the center of the congruent statement. So angle B has to be congruent to angle S. Okay. Eventually, for your homework, I will take away the picture and only give you the congruent statement, and you'll have to look at it. So that's why I mentioned both. Today I won't, but eventually down the road I will. Okay, they'll get a little harder as we go. Remember, I give you a review. Okay. Oh, and I should not have written it like that. I should have written it like angle S. My bad. Sorry. Questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
On number 2,
Yes.
I was doing the same thing, but
even though this is like, so, it looks like you should put it, how it looked to me, is SR. Since
Wait.
it's written like triangle RS, should you put it RS?
It has XW, so XW should say
should be
RS.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
But then also, since this X only has one arc, you would place that right there.
Mhm.
So then.
But
it would
technically,
be
all you have
flipped
to
around
do
to
with
be
this one
RS.
is you just pick it up and turn it this way and put it on that. It's the same exact thing. So,
Yes. Do you
I don't know,
understand?
my
We got you.
brain can
Okay,
do
okay,
that for some
fantastic.
reason.
All right, we're going to move to not number 2, but I helped you, no problem. We're going to move to number 4. This time they're going to have you mark it. So they want you to mark the angles and sides of each pair of triangles to indicate they are congruent. This is the way I do it.
Nasty.
I start out with the letters. U is first and F is first. So I mark them as U and F. Next, V and G.
Not that bad.
V and G. I'm going to put 2 marks on those. If you don't have the same number of marks in the same
You still
spots,
have to do the line marks, dude.
that's correct. Those are the ones a little more complicated. No problem, though. I'll show you how to do them.
So would it be UV is congruent to FG?
I do it like this. I do UV and FG. Notice
what I
up there.
said.
Yes. Is that what you said already?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to do the U and the V. I'm going to change colors. UV, and then FG. I'm not good at picking up and flipping myself. I don't pick up, and I'm not like others that can pick up and flip and twist and stuff. I'm not able to do that as much.
looks right to me for some reason.
And then I've got V.
Okay, that's not that bad.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not.
VW and H or GH, excuse me. Oh, and you can also do it this way. If they're scalene, you can do the long goes with the long, the medium goes with the medium, and the short goes with the short.
All of ours on our assignment look about the same.
Okay, do they look isosceles
They look very
or
close.
equilateral?
Or
So
very
then,
close.
now, obviously, once I've marked these 2, the other one has to be true, so I don't have to even look at the others. Do you guys have this the same as I do? At least you don't. And by the way, your 1 mark, 2 mark, and 3 marks don't have to be the same as mine. You just have to be corresponding to each other.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay. All right, are we going to the next ones? Are we ready for me? Yes, I think we are. All right, here we go. Take forever because you guys are going ahead. Okay, here we go. No, I'm teasing you guys.
Oh, wait.
All right, now we have to write the congruent write a statement that indicates that the triangles in each pair are congruent. So you could have these in. So if I do this, if I say triangle, and I think they're going to go in alphabetical order, but you don't have to. They're probably going to go E, F, G. So I'm going to go E, F, G. Congruent to triangle. Now the order matters. If you wrote it in a different order than E, F, G, that's not a problem. What goes with E? What should I put first?
R.
I heard R. How do we know?
Because if you pick it up and pop it down in the other direction, it's R.
Exactly right. I do it this way. I said that it's the two little marks and the two little marks.
That's what I did.
So that's how I did it. Next is F. F has 3 marks, so I'm going to go with Q next.
And then it's going to be...
By the process of elimination, it's got to be P.
Yes. Wait, so when they don't have any numbers, you're allowed to just come up with your the first random order.
They're going to
and then the
have to
rest
give
of
you
them has to
marks. They're going to have to give you marks because
Well, for
sometimes
on this,
if it's
like,
isosceles or something, then yeah, see, they give you marks.
Well, on this... Oh, so it's going to be like L, it's going to be in the order of the marks?
Oh, I
Like
suppose.
L
I
and M?
suppose. Is that how they did it? No, because they started this one with G as the first mark, which wouldn't be in alphabetical order. So
Not alphabetical
no.
order, the order of the lines. Like there's 1 line, and then there's 2, and then there's 3.
Yes. So
But they did it 1, 3, 2
yeah,
on that.
yeah. If I would, you know, your answer key might have it like this: triangle F
G, E, F,
G E, and that's okay.
F, G. So the first
If
one,
that's
you
the
can
case.
pick the order.
Yes, the
And
first
then
one
the
you
rest
can.
of it
The
goes along with
that's
it.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then I'm just gonna do the
Yeah.
first angle, second.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you wanted to do
third
first,
line.
second,
That's
third,
what I
yes.
can do.
So that would be perfect. So if instead, if you wanted to do, yeah.
I should
So
bring them in alphabetical order just because it's easier for
G
me to
is the
follow.
first, has a 1 mark
Well,
on
then
it.
it's easier to even
E
look
has
at
the
it.
second
Look at the
one.
first.
Yeah,
And
all I gotta do
F-
is look at
Yeah, all you
the
gotta do is look at the
lines.
other one.
Yeah, that would be perfect, Brett. If that's your procedure, then you have a procedure that you're going to follow. That's great.
It's the simplest procedure.
All right, what do we got next? All right, we're going to do a construction now. We're going to, and I think that's coming down there. It's copying a triangle.
2 seconds.
Like,
You have this in your notes.
Okay.
You're going to, I have a note sheet for you for the steps. You're going to write in your Pashto book. We're going to do number 10 together. I'm going to pause it while we do that.
your compass. Might as well use
All right,
it.
we're back. I will try to post an example of this, but you guys all did this without me. I didn't explain any of this to you, but I'll post one in case you forgot. All right, here we go.
Is this 4.3?
We're almost there. Yes, we just summarized what we did. For figures to be congruent, they must be the same size and shape, and they must have the corresponding parts of your triangles are congruent. Corresponding angles are congruent. Corresponding triangles are congruent. And when naming your congruent sides and triangles, the order matters. Okay. If you notice, we did no algebra or figuring out of numbers. We just named things this time and drew and copied a triangle. All right.